Emma Bright and her young daughter Rosie were among the many passengers stuck on a delayed flight. As the minutes turned into hours, their impatience grew. Little did Emma know, this frustrating experience was about to take an unexpected and life-changing turn. But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. As passengers slowly boarded the plane, Emma noticed an elderly man making his way down the aisle. His age and the military insignia on his hat drew her attention. It was clear he was a veteran, and as he moved, it became apparent he was struggling to find a suitable seat. Emma's irritation melted into compassion. She couldn't help but notice his discomfort and the effort it took for him to walk down the narrow aisle. Without hesitation, Emma stood up and approached the veteran. "Sir, would you like to take my seat by the window?" she offered. The veteran looked surprised by her kindness but gratefully accepted. Emma settled into her new seat, which was less comfortable and had limited legroom, but she didn't mind. She felt a sense of satisfaction knowing she had helped someone who had served their country. As the plane took off, Emma couldn't help but notice the lettering on the veteran's hat. It indicated his service in not one, but 2 wars. Yet her respect for him deepened, and she felt a sense of gratitude for his sacrifices. A short while into the flight, Emma heard the sound of pages turning from the seat in front of her. Peeking through the gap between the seats, she saw the veteran carefully flipping through a thick photo album. The photos were old and yellowed, depicting scenes of camaraderie and the harsh realities of war. Emma's curiosity was piqued, and she felt an inexplicable urge to know more about this man's story. She gasped, covering her mouth to stifle her shock. Something about that specific photograph triggered an intense emotional response within her. It was a group photo of soldiers, and one of the faces looked strikingly familiar. Unable to contain her curiosity, Emma made the decision to switch seats once more, this time sitting directly next to the veteran. "Excuse me, sir," she said politely. "I couldn't help but notice your photo album. Would you mind telling me about these pictures?" The veteran smiled warmly and nodded. He introduced himself as Charles and began recounting his wartime experiences. He spoke of battles fought and friendships forged in the crucible of war. As he turned each page, Emma listened intently, her eyes widening with each story. As Charles continued, Emma's mind raced. The face in the photograph that had caught her attention bore a striking resemblance to her own grandfather, William. Her grandfather had often spoken of his time in the military and the friends he had made, but he had never mentioned Charles by name. Kemen's heart pounded as she realized the profound connection between the veteran and her own family. When Charles finally revealed the specific photograph that had so deeply affected Emma, she broke down in tears. "That's my grandfather," she exclaimed, pointing to the young soldier standing next to Charles in the photo. Charles' eyes widened in shock and recognition. He had believed his friend to be lost to the ravages of war, never imagining that William had survived and had a family of his own. For the remainder of the flight, Charles shared intimate details about the men in the photograph, recounting the unbreakable bonds forged during their time in the military. Emma listened with tears streaming down her face, piecing together the story of her grandfather's past. She knew she had to bring these 2 old friends back together. As the plane landed, Charles assumed their encounter was over, but Emma had other plans. She asked the veteran to accompany her and her daughter into the airport's arrival hall, where she had a special surprise waiting for him. In the bustling arrival hall, Emma introduced Charles to her father, who had come to pick them up. The moment the 2 men laid eyes on each other, it was clear they recognized one another. Tears filled their eyes as they embraced, realizing they were long-lost wartime friends. Emma revealed that the man Charles had been hugging was her own grandfather, William. She explained that her grandfather had often spoken of a brave soldier who had saved his life during the war, and that soldier was none other than Charles himself. As the 2 old friends were reunited, Charles recounted the harrowing details of the battle where he had last seen William. He described the explosion that had separated them, and his belief that his friend had been killed, only to discover now that William had miraculously survived. And William then shared his own account of that fateful day, explaining how he had been caught in the blast but managed to survive, only to be sent home due to his injuries. He had assumed Charles had perished, never imagining that his dear friend had also made it through the ordeal. Being overcome with emotion, Charles and William embraced once more, their long-lost friendship reignited. The 2 men spent the rest of the day together, catching up on the decades of life they had missed, their bond as strong as ever. And Emma beamed with pride, knowing that her simple act of kindness on the plane had led to this incredible reunion. She had recognized the significance of the photograph in Charles' album and made it her mission to bring these 2 old friends back together. Charles expressed his heartfelt gratitude to Emma, acknowledging that without her intervention, he may never have reconnected with his long-lost friend. Emma, however, insisted that no repayment was necessary. She was simply overjoyed to have played a role in reuniting these 2 war heroes. As the day drew to a close, Charles and William pored over the photo album, reminiscing about their time serving together. They laughed, cried, and marveled at the serendipitous circumstances that had brought them back into each other's lives after all these years. Emma's simple act of kindness on that delayed flight had a profound and lasting impact. And not only had she reunited two old friends, but she had also given her grandfather the gift of reconnecting with his wartime comrades, a bond he had long believed was lost forever. Their heartwarming reunion between Charles and William did not end there. The two men continued to stay in touch, even spending the upcoming Christmas holiday together, their friendship stronger than ever before. Emma's act of compassion had truly changed the lives of these two war heroes. It's as Emma and Rosie returned to their everyday lives, they couldn't help but feel a sense of fulfillment and joy. Emma's small act of kindness had set off a chain of events that brought immense happiness and closure to her grandfather and his dear friend. It was a reminder of the power of compassion and the impact one person's generosity can have on the lives of others. Next, Charles and William's story spread through their community, inspiring others with its message of hope, friendship, and the enduring bonds formed in the most challenging of circumstances. Emma knew that the experience on that plane had changed her forever, and she carried with her the knowledge that even the smallest acts of kindness can lead to the most extraordinary outcomes. Months passed, and the bond between Charles and William grew stronger. They met regularly, reminiscing about their shared past and creating new memories together. Their families became close, celebrating holidays and milestones bound by the remarkable story of their reunion. Emma often reflected on that fateful flight and the series of events that followed. She felt a deep sense of satisfaction, knowing that her decision to give up her seat had brought so much joy and healing to her grandfather and his friend. She realized that life's most profound moments often come from unexpected places and that acts of kindness can ripple through time, touching lives in ways we can never fully comprehend. Charles and William's friendship became a beacon of hope and resilience, reminding everyone who heard their story of the strength of the human spirit. Their tale was shared at local veterans events, in schools, and even featured in a documentary highlighting the enduring bonds formed during wartime. Emma's children and grandchildren grew up hearing the story of their great-grandfather and his brave friend Charles. It became a cherished part of their family history, a legacy of kindness and the extraordinary power of human connection. Emma's simple act of giving up her seat on a plane had created a lasting impact, a legacy that would be remembered for generations to come. In the end, the chance encounter on a delayed flight turned into a beautiful story of friendship, a sacrifice, and the unbreakable bonds formed in the crucible of war. Emma's kindness had bridged the gap between the past and the present, reuniting two old friends and reminding everyone of the profound impact one person's actions can have on the lives of others. The story of Charles and William, brought together by the serendipitous kindness of Emma, continued to inspire and touch hearts, proving that even in the most unexpected moments, acts of compassion and generosity can lead to the most extraordinary and life-changing outcomes.